So hi, so I will be taking you quantitative methods like you know. And so we've already done our first class, just an introduction on what quantitative method is. And I remember that I defined what quantitative methods is. So before I begin the class, one thing I want you to know is that knowledge is progressive. Okay, what did I say? Knowledge is progressive. You can't get everything at once, all right? So you need to continue to read, all right? As you read, you learn. As you learn, you are able to expand your knowledge base. So knowledge is progressive. Just take it step by step, all right? Take things simple on a simple form so that you won't complicate a concept. You won't complicate this concept with each other. So the chapter from the book, I ask you guys to read chapter 1, and please read very well. Read very well. Okay. So I'm going to be teaching you the approaches to research today. So there are three main approaches to research. All right. But before I get to the approaches, the three main approaches to research, what is research? Research simply means that you want to find out answers to a particular question. So you want, for example, if you want to carry out a research on the level of unemployment or employment in Somalia, you first need to ask yourself a question. So what is the level of unemployment in Somalia? When you ask that question, then you will now engage in research. Now, the process of you finding out answers to your question, they refer to as research approaches. Now, in finding out research, in the process of approaching your research, there are basic things you need to look for, you need to look at, all right? It follows the steps of data collection, analysis, and interpretation. Let me say that again. Data collection, analysis, and interpretation. I know you already know what data collection means. It means you are collecting data, all right? And analysis simply means you are analyzing your data in simple words. Interpretation simply means you are interpreting your results, because we need to know what have you found. Okay, what are the answers you have found after you have analyzed your data. Okay, so research approaches are plans and the procedures for research that span the steps from broad assumptions to detailed methods. Now, the reason why these steps are involved is because it's not enough to assume. When it comes to research, you don't assume. For example, if you see so many news on the internet, there are so many assumptions. And the reason why um, policies or so many, how do I put it? The reason why there's no much progress among individuals or in nations at large is because there are a lot of assumptions in the information that are being presented out there. All right. So if you find out, if you see any news, if you find out any information, one of the first things that you must find out is this uh, is this genuine? And how do you know it's genuine? You have to ask yourself, is it based on assumptions, or is it based on detailed methods of data collection, analysis, and interpretation? Okay, you need to look at that. So you don't assume, you need to follow due process. Now, what are the three main approaches to research? I need you to listen attentively, okay? We have three main approaches. One is qualitative research. Two is quantitative research. Three is mixed methods. Mixed method is the mixture of quantitative and qualitative research. Now, what is qualitative research? Qualitative research is an approach for exploring and understanding the meaning individuals or groups ascribe to a social or human problem. Let me see, I think I missed, okay. I started with qualitative, okay. Now, what does that mean? It means that, for example, the way you are, there are particular things that you see differently from the way I am. Okay, the way you see things is called worldview. All right, take note of that word, worldview. What does it mean? Worldview means the way you see things, the way you perceive the world, the way you carry out your daily activities is different from the way someone else is going to do that. So when we talk about qualitative research, what we are talking about is we are trying to find out what how do you see things, you particularly, how do you see things? So but the question won't be asked from you alone. It could be asked from 250 people or 300 people or 1,000 people. All right, so that is qualitative research. It is based on the understanding from individuals, collective group of individuals. All right, and how is that done? You can carry out a survey. For example, if I want to find out who is more educated in the US, and I carry out a survey and say, okay, uh, um, male people, the male folks are more educated, or the female folks are more educated, and people will decide to choose who is more educated. Now, there are so many criteria that will be put in that survey, and you are meant to fill that survey. You are meant to fill that survey, all right, based on you are going to feel that survey based on your perspective. Or when I ask um, about financial literacy or about wealth, you will have to fill that survey based on your perspective. So filling that survey based on your perspective is called a qualitative research. Now, it is inductive in nature, all right? It is inductive in nature. Inductive means that you are moving from from your own worldview to general. It means that we are trying to form or come up with a theory that says that, okay, let me give you an example. If I want to find out the level of what example can I use now? Okay, I want to find out who an inventor is. All right, I want to find out. So my question says, who is an inventor? And I distribute and I ask so many people, who is an inventor? Who is an inventor? That's my question. Now you are going to answer that question, and I have some alternatives. I put some boxes there. An inventor is this, an inventor is that, an inventor is this. You will, from your own worldview, you are going to pick what an inventor is. And different people will also pick different things. So at the end of the day, when I analyze the data and I come up with the result, I have been able to come up with a theory that says, based on the collective group of people, all right, this is who or an inventor is. So in that way, I'm trying to develop a theory. I hope you understand. So qualitative research is based on individual worldview or worldview from a selected group of people. That's the simple form, and it is inductive in nature. I want you to take note of that. It is an inductive kind of approach. Now, what is quantitative research? Quantitative research is an approach for testing objective theories. Remember that qualitative means you are moving from particular to general, but quantitative means that you are moving from general to particular. What that means is that if you want to carry out a research, a quantitative research, there is a theory that is underpinning that you must base your research on. Remember that I think when I took you guys managerial economics, I told you what a theory is. So it is based on that theory that you will be carrying out your research. That is quantitative research, and it is deductive in nature. It is deductive because it is moving from general to particular. Qualitative research moves from particular to general. Quantitative research moves from general to particular. What is general? It is a theory that is general. So if you want to do a quantitative research at the end of your master's program, you have to find out, are you going to do quantitative or you are going to do qualitative. If you are doing qualitative, then maybe you want to do a survey. You want to share questionnaires. But if you are doing quantitative, it means that maybe you already have a theory that you want to base your research on. Okay, so that's just a simple explanation. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email, and I'll be able to explain uh, more to you. Now, what are MIST methods? MIST method is a mixture of both quantitative and qualitative research. It is a mixture of both quantitative and qualitative research. It simply means that you can decide that you want to share questionnaires, you want to take a survey, or at the same time, you want to do a quantitative research. So the mixture of both gives your result. Your results will be very outstanding. Why? Because you are going to get uh, the worldview of individuals or different selected group of people, and at the same time you are going to use a data set that is readily available. With that, you can have a very robust result. Now, in those three approaches to research, there are two main things you must pay attention to. That is the philosophical assumption, all right? The philosophical assumption, as well as distinct methods or procedures. So qualitative research has its own methods, quantitative research has its own method, and mixed methods also has its own methods that you use to carry it out. I hope it's very clear. Just how would you study this course? Look at things from a very simple perspective. For example, if I ask you, what is philosophy? All right. Philosophy simply means that your idea, it talks about idea. All right. So philosophical assumption simply means that ideological assumptions. You have your own philosophy. I have my philosophy. For example, if I ask you, what is your philosophy about life? You tell me, okay, life is beautiful. I feel life should be lived maximally. If you ask me, I will also tell you what my philosophy is. Okay, so you must approach this course from a very simple perspective. Don't complicate things for yourself. And I usually like students to explain things from they should use their mind, from their perspective. You don't need to uh, copy what I've given you word for word. Yes, you can use the terminologies from what I've shared with you, but you must learn to use your words, because that is what shows that you are a thinking man. All right, it shows that you are thinking if you are able to use your words. So remember these two things: philosophical assumptions as well as distinct methods or procedures. That is what differentiates those methods from each other. Now, let's look at this diagram. What are those components involved in the approaches? What are those three approaches again? Qualitative methods, quantitative methods, and also um, mixed methods. Those are the three approaches. Now, just give me a second. I want to be sure. So, what are the components involved in these approaches? One, I talked about philosophical worldviews. All right, it means that how people see things. I'm going to explain the post-positivist, constructivist, transformative, and pragmatic. I'm going to explain that. But can you look at this diagram properly? Look at the diagram properly. Can you tell me can you explain what this diagram is showing? This diagram is explaining that, for example, look at the research approaches. So I mentioned three research approaches: qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods, right? Now, these three methods have their own philosophical worldviews. And when we talk about philosophical worldviews, we are also talking about post-positivist, constructivist, transformative, and pragmatic. Now, also, these research approaches, please pay attention to me very well. Let me start over again. I said I mentioned three approaches to research: qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods. I said these different approaches have their own philosophical worldviews. And those philosophical worldviews are what we see at the left-hand side: post-positivist, constructivist, transformative, and pragmatic. Now, each of these approaches, research approaches, they have their own designs, under quantitative you have experiments, and under qualitative you have ethnographies. All right. Under mixed method you have explanatory sequential. So those are the types of designs for the three different type of approaches. Now, you also have under the research methods. So you have philosophical worldview, you have designs, and you have research methods. You have such as questions, data collection, data analysis, interpretation, and validation. So one of the things I want you to do is look at this diagram very well. Just look at it and examine, feel the diagram to know what it's saying. You have to study to know what it's talking about. But I'm going to explain the worldviews to you. Then along the line, we are still going to deal with research designs. We're going to talk about research methods. We're going to talk about philosophy. We are going to talk about the philosophical worldviews now. Okay? So, what are the four worldviews? The four worldviews are just like you have here. You have that under philosophical worldviews, you have positivism, post-positivism, constructivism, transformative, and pragmatism. All right. Take note of those four things: post-positivism, constructivism, transformative, and pragmatism. Those are the four worldviews we are going to consider. And I'm going to explain them as we move on. Now, what does the post-positivist worldview, what does it talk about? It is sometimes called the scientific method. I've already explained what what science is to you. Science is a method that is used to explain a phenomena or an event. Now, what makes science science? It's because there are specific certain steps that must be followed for you to call something science. All right, which in our last slides that I taught you, there are those steps. You have those steps there. Now, the post-positivist, post simply means after. That's the meaning of post. The post-positivist worldview, it's also called positivist. You call them positivism. You call it positivism, or it's called post-positivist research or empirical science or post-positivism or positivists. Okay, I'm going to show you the why it's called post-positivism. I'm going to show you now. Now, the last term is called post-positivism because it represents the thinking after positivism. So before positivism, post-positivism, you have positivism. All right, challenging the traditional notion of absolute truth of knowledge. The disadvantage of positivism is that you cannot argue with it. Remember that I think in micro, I was explaining to you what we call objective science and subjective science, objectivity and subjectivity. All right, objectivity simply means that you cannot argue with it. You have to accept the result in the sense that because it has followed the rigors of science, positivists assume that it is absolutely true, which is false. Okay, the belief is absolutely true. That's why you have post-positivism. All right, it's under philosophy. Now, post-positivists are concerned about cause and effect. What does that mean? It simply means they believe that there has to be, you have to get some, there has to be processes for you to follow before you arrive at certain decisions. All right? They are deterministic in nature. Now, the constructivist worldview is called social constructivism. It is seen as an approach to qualitative research. Now, let me ask you a question. The postpositivism or the postpositivist, what kind of research did they carry out? Can you answer that? It is quantitative research. Take note of that because it is called empirical science, all right? You have to follow through the rigors of science or scientific method. So postpositivism is quantitative in nature. Why the constructivism? What does construct? To construct means to construct knowledge. It means to construct, and to construct knowledge, you need to take the worldview of you and I, of different set of people or different group of people. And what kind of research is that? It is qualitative in nature. It is qualitative in nature. Now, social constructivists believe that individuals seek understanding of the world in which they live and work. Like I explained before, you interpret things based on how you see it. You interpret things based on how you are able to see it. All right, that's the way we interpret things. That is a constructivist worldview. It's someone who construct knowledge. All right, that's who a constructivist is. You are able to construct your theory. All right, remember that in the beginning of the slides, I said qualitative research, it is inductive in nature. It means that it moves from particular to general, while quantitative research is deductive in nature. You can refer to as deductive reasoning, meaning that it moves from general, you are moving from theory to particular. Okay, so the goal of constructive worldview is it's qualitative research because they construct knowledge from different experiences of people. All right. The goal of the research is to rely as much as possible on participants or views of the situation being studied. Now, the transformative worldview. The transformative worldview holds that research inquiry needs to be intertwined with politics and the political change agenda to confront social oppression at what level it occurs. So take note of this, is that the transformative worldview is saying that there has to be the research it needs to have a feel of politics into it. All right, it needs to have a feel of politics into it in order to make a very meaningful contribution. That's the transformative worldview. Let's take it back again. The positivist, it's a quantitative research. Constructivist is a qualitative research. Why the transformative worldview? We are going to get there. The transformative worldview is saying that there has to be a feel of politics. Thus, the research contains an action agenda for reform that may change lives of the participant, the institution in which individuals work or live, and the researcher's life. So, pragmatic worldview. Pragmatism is not committed to any system of philosophy and reality. This applies to mixed method research. So this also, the transformative worldview could also be qualitative in nature. I believe it can be qualitative research because it said, does the research contains an action agenda for reform that may change the lives of the participant? That's qualitative in nature. That's qualitative in nature. But I know you can also have quantitative research that will have mix of politics into it. So this can also be mixed. Now, the pragmatic worldview. Sorry, excuse me. The pragmatic worldview is not committed to any philosophy. It's under the mixed methods. That's the pragmatic worldview. All right, that's just a simple explanation I can give you to make things as simple. So individual researchers have a freedom of choice. Now, research design. When we talk about research design, remember that what we are explaining to you now is we are explaining this graph to you. So we've spoken about the philosophical worldview. Now we are moving to research designs. We are going to explain these more as we move in the topic. So research designs. Research designs are types of inquiry within qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method approaches that provide specific direction for procedures in a research design. Others have called them strategies of inquiry. So in order to carry out the research, you need a design. What kind of design are we talking about? So under quantitative is experimental in nature because we are scientists. All right. Quantitative, remember I told you they are positivists. All right. We are talking about positivism. We are trying to carry out an experiment. All right. What are qualitative research has to do with narrative research, phenomenology, grounded theory, ethnographies, and case study. While mixed methods, I expect you to study some of these things on your own. Okay. Do uh, a detailed study and let me know if you have any question. While mixed methods involves convergent, explanatory, sequential, um, exploratory. To explore means to find out. Explanatory simply to explain in a very sequential model. Transformative, embedded, or a multi-phase. All right. So under quantitative, I mentioned surveys to you. All right. Uh, experimental designs. Now, research methods. Under quantitative methods, you have predetermined instrument-based questions, performance data, attitude data, observational data. So this is under quantitative, and this we have under mixed methods. We also have under qualitative methods. As time goes on, these things will be explained to you properly. All right. So let me see what you need to know here. So qualitative has to do with text image analysis, open-ended questions, because you'll be asking people questions. All right. All right. Research approaches as worldviews, designs, and methods. Let's see what you need to know here. All right. Open-ended. These are still trying to explain what I've explained to you before. Okay, it's criteria for selecting a research approach. The research problem and questions. That's one criteria. Because before you carry out any research, one thing you need to ask yourself is you need to find out what do you want to solve? What question did you have at the back of your mind? What problem is it that you want to solve? All right. Like I said, like you can see here, the research will be discussed later in chapter 5. The research problem and questions. So the first thing is to have a problem that you want to solve. When you see a problem that you want to solve, you now begin to ask questions. It is those questions that will lead you to your research procedures. All right, it will lead you to your research design of how you want to carry out your research. So number one, to select a research approach, you first need to have a problem. There has to be a problem, and you need to ask questions. They call them research questions. 2, to select a research, you need to find out your competence level. What is it that you're good at? What have you been trained on? So you carry out the research on what you know that you are an expert in, something that gives you the strength to write. Okay, the strength to carry out the research to solve that problem in that particular field. All right. Another criteria is your audience. Your audience. Okay, who are you writing for? All right, are you writing for journal editors or faculty committees or conference or colleagues in the field? or you are writing so that your government can see that you want to solve a particular problem? Who are you writing for? So those are the three criteria for selecting a research approach. One, research problem and questions. Two, your experience, your training. What are you expert in? Three, your audience. Who are you writing for? So your review question is, what distinguishes a quantitative study from a qualitative study? Mention three characteristics and explain in your own words. Let me go back to, I want to explain something to you. Under quantitative, I want to make this clear. Under quantitative, you have experimental designs and you also have surveys if you are carrying out surveys. But under qualitative, we are talking about case studies. All right, you are trying to carry out a case study. All right, you need to take note of that. And mixed method, you are mixing both methods, both quantitative and qualitative. That's what it is. Let's see what you need to know again. Let's see what you need to know again. So if you have any question, let me know so I can guide you accordingly. All right, so we've come to the end of this class. I'm going to send you, and this is the reference. I'm going to send you at a timetable schedule so that you can take a look at it. All right, so let me explain this to you. This quote says, the purpose of education extends beyond the development of skills we need for economic success. It can contribute to nation building and reconciliation. Nelson Mandela. So the reason why you are studying is to be able to contribute meaningfully to your own life, to your country, and to the world at large. So see beyond just reading because you want to read. Read because you want to become a better person. So have a wonderful day. I'm going to see you next time in class. Goodbye.